3 days after my wife's funeral, my daughter-in-law handed me a cup of tea and said, "Dad, we need to talk about where you're going to live now." She smiled when she said it, but something behind that smile made my stomach drop. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Because what I'm about to share will make you question everyone you think you know. Let me back up. My name is Walter. I'm 63 years old. Retired electrician out of Milwaukee. 41 years I spent pulling wire through walls, fixing panels, reading circuits. My hands know things, my brain sometimes forgets. I married Ruth when I was 22. She was the strongest woman I ever knew. Raised 2 kids while I worked doubles. Never complained. When the cancer came, she fought it for 14 months before it took her. Our son, Kevin, was the golden child. Smart, charming, graduated top of his class at Marquette, became a financial advisor. Nice office downtown. German car. Tailored suits. Everyone in the neighborhood said the same thing. "You must be so proud of that boy." And I was, God help me, our daughter, Ellie, was different. Quiet. Artistic. She painted murals for community centers and worked part-time at a bookstore. She never made much money. But she had Ruth's kindness. The kind of person who'd give you her last $20 and apologize for not having more. 2 years before Ruth died, Ellie vanished. Kevin told me she'd moved to Portland with some guy she met online. Said she didn't want to be found. Sent me a letter. Supposedly from Ellie, explaining she needed space. That she'd been struggling with depression and needed to start fresh. No phone number. No forwarding address. Just gone. Ruth cried for weeks. I called Portland police. Filed a missing person report. Hired a private investigator for 3 months until the money ran out. Nothing. The PI said some people just don't want to be found. Kevin handled everything. Talked to the police on my behalf. Managed Ruth's medical bills. When Ruth got too sick to manage the finances, Kevin stepped in. Power of attorney. He called it just paperwork. Dad lets me pay your bills so you can focus on Mom. I signed it. Didn't read every page. Ruth was dying. I couldn't think about anything else. After the funeral, Kevin's wife, Sharon, sat me down at my own kitchen table. She'd made this elaborate speech about how the house was too big for one person. Too many stairs. Too many memories. Kevin had found a perfect place, a retirement community in Glendale. Clean. Safe. Friendly. They'd already put down a deposit. I said I needed time. Sharon's smile tightened. Of course, Dad. But Kevin already listed the house. What? It's for the best. She said, "Market's hot right now. Kevin says you'll clear almost $400,000. That'll cover the retirement community for years." I went cold. This was my house. Ruth and I bought it in 1989. I rewired every outlet myself. Built the back deck with my own hands. Planted the maple tree that now shades the whole yard. I called Kevin that night. He answered on the 3rd ring. Distracted. "Dad, it's already in motion. The house is technically in a family trust now. Remember when you signed those documents last year? I didn't remember. Last year, Ruth was in hospice. Kevin brought papers every week. Insurance forms. Medical authorizations. Things I signed between holding Ruth's hand and praying, 'Dad, I'm protecting your assets. You can't manage a house alone. You forget to turn off the stove. You left the front door open twice last week.' I hadn't left the door open. And I never forget the stove. 41 years working with electrical systems teaches you to respect what can burn. But Kevin's voice was so calm, so reasonable. And Sharon nodded along on speakerphone like they'd rehearsed this. Maybe I was confused. Maybe grief was scrambling my brain. Maybe they were right. I almost believed them. 2 weeks later, I was packing boxes when Margaret Chen rang my doorbell. Margaret lived 3 houses down. Retired school teacher. 71. Sharp as a tack. She'd brought Ruth casseroles during chemo and never once asked for the dishes back. Walter, I need to show you something. She led me to her living room and opened a laptop. On the screen was a real estate listing. My house, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. Listed at $420,000. But the seller wasn't me. It was Bridgewater Family Holdings, LLC. I was browsing listings for my niece. Margaret said, I recognized your house immediately. Walter. Who is Bridgewater Family Holdings? I didn't know. I'd never heard that name. Margaret clicked to another tab. State Business Records. Bridgewater Family Holdings, LLC. Registered 14 months ago. Managing member, Kevin Mitchell. He formed this company while your wife was in hospice. Margaret said quietly, He's selling your house through it. Something cracked inside me. Not rage. Not yet. Something deeper. The sickening realization that the person you trusted most has been lying to you, and you don't know for how long. There's more, Margaret said. She pulled up bank statements she'd helped me organize months ago when I couldn't focus. Ruth's life insurance. $250,000. It had been deposited into a joint account Kevin set up for household expenses. He'd told me. The balance was $11,000 in 5 months. Nearly $240,000 had disappeared. Transfers to Bridgewater Holdings. Payments to a property management company I'd never heard of. Cash withdrawals. $5,000 here, $8,000 there. My son had been draining me dry while I mourned his mother. Walter, Margaret said gently. Where is Ellie? The question hit me like a fist. Ellie, my quiet kind, vanished daughter. Kevin told me she'd left. Kevin showed me the letter. Kevin handled the police calls. The PI. Everything. What if Ellie never left at all? I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in Ruth's chair, holding her reading glasses, and thought about every interaction with Kevin over the past 2 years. The urgency, the paperwork, the way he always had an answer ready before I finished asking the question, the way he'd steered every conversation about Ellie toward closure. She's gone. Dad, you have to accept it. Some people don't want to be found. What if she was never lost? At 6 the next morning, I drove to the Milwaukee County Courthouse. I've never been a legal man, but I understand systems. Electrical, mechanical, structural. Every system has a blueprint. Every blueprint has a point of failure. I pulled property records. Kevin had purchased a commercial building on South Kinnickinnick Avenue 11 months ago, through Bridgewater Holdings. The building was listed as vacant office space, but the utility records told a different story. Electric usage was 4 times what an empty office should draw. Consistent. Monthly. Like someone was living there, I drove to the address. It was a narrow 2-story brick building between a dry cleaner and a nail salon. Windows boarded on the 2nd floor. Front door padlocked. No signage. Nothing to suggest anyone had been inside in years. But I'm an electrician. I walked around back, found the utility meter, and put my hand on it. Spinning. Drawing heavy current. Someone was using power in there. Serious power. Not a space heater. Not a forgotten light. Computers. Maybe. Equipment. I needed to get inside. But Natalie's lesson from the earlier analysis echoed in my mind. If I confronted Kevin now, without proof, he'd gaslight me. Move whatever was inside. Destroy evidence. Call me crazy. I needed to be smarter than that. I went back to Margaret. She called her nephew. James. A locksmith. I told James I owned the building through my family trust and lost the key. He didn't ask questions. 20 minutes later, the padlock was off. The ground floor was empty. Dusty concrete. Barry walls. Nothing. I climbed the stairs. The second floor had a reinforced door with an electronic keypad. New. Expensive. Completely out of place in this rundown building. I studied the keypad. 4-digit code? I know electronic locks. I'd installed hundreds of them. This model stored the last code entered in a buffer. I pulled the faceplate off, found the diagnostic port, and used a voltmeter from my truck to read the stored charge pattern. Old electrician's trick that most people don't know about. The code was 0615. June 15th. Ellie's birthday. My hands were shaking so badly I had to enter it twice. The lock clicked. I pushed the door open. The smell hit first. Stale air. Chemical cleaner. And underneath it something human. Sweat. Unwashed clothes. Fear. The room was large. Maybe 30 by 20. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Along one wall. 4 computer monitors glowed with streams of data I didn't understand. Numbers. Charts. Blinking cursors. A desk with keyboards. Cables snaking across the floor to a server rack in the corner. Against the far wall was a cot. Thin mattress. Gray blanket. A pillow stained yellow. Next to it, a mini fridge. A microwave. A stack of protein bars. And a 5-gallon water jug. A bucket in the corner with a lid. A small shelf with 3 paperback books. All dog-eared. This was a cell. Someone was living here. Working here. Imprisoned here. But the room was empty. I checked the bathroom. A converted closet with a utility sink and a camp toilet. Empty. Then I heard it. Tapping. Soft. Rhythmic. Coming from behind the server rack. I moved the rack. Behind it, a section of drywall had been cut and reattached with Velcro strips. I peeled it back. A crawl space. Maybe 4 feet deep. 3 feet high. And in the back, pressed against the brick wall, a woman, knees drawn to her chest, arms wrapped around herself, hair matted, eyes enormous, in a thin face. She looked up at me, and I saw Ruth's eyes, my wife's exact eyes staring back at me from a face I almost didn't recognize. Ellie. She flinched like I'd hit her. Please, she whispered. Crease, I finished the batch. Tell Kevin I finished. I just needed to rest. Please don't take the books. She didn't recognize me. 2 years in this room had hollowed her out so completely she couldn't see her own father standing in front of her. Ellie. Babe. It's Dad. She stared. Blinked. Her mouth moved, but nothing came out. Then something shifted in those eyes. Something deep and buried, fighting its way to the surface. Dad. The word came out cracked, like she'd forgotten how to say it. You're... He said, you didn't want me. He said you and Mom agreed I needed to go away. He said you signed papers. I never signed anything about you. Mom died 6 weeks ago. Ellie. She died not knowing where you were. She died asking for you. The sound my daughter made will haunt me until they put me in the ground. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't crying. It was the sound of someone learning they've lost everything while locked in a room where they couldn't even grieve. I crawled in and held her. She weighed nothing. I could feel her spine through her shirt. Her arms were thin as broomsticks. She smelled like bleach and despair. He told me you both wanted me gone. She kept saying, he showed me texts from your phone. He showed me emails from Mom. You both said I was a burden. That I ruined everything. He faked them. All of it. Ellie. We looked for you. I hired a detective. Mom cried every night. She shook against me. Then she grabbed my arm with surprising strength, Dad, listen. You have to listen. You can't take me out of here. Not yet. What? He'll know. He checks the cameras remotely. There are cameras everywhere. If I'm gone when he comes tonight, he'll run, and he'll destroy everything, and nobody will ever believe us. What cameras? I looked around. She pointed. Tiny pinhole cameras mounted in the ceiling tiles. 3 of them, covering every angle. He watches from his phone. He knows if I stop working, if I sleep too long, if I move the rack, then he already knows I'm here. No. She shook her head. He only checks at night, between 6 and 10. During the day, he's at the office performing for his clients. He trusts the lot. He trusts the fear. What does he make you do? She pointed at the computers. Identity theft. Wire fraud. I was always good with computers. Remember, he figured that out. Set me up here. Made me create fake accounts. Move money. Build shell companies. Everything traces to me. Every login. Every transaction. Every IP address. If police come, I'm the criminal. He's just the landlord of a vacant building. My blood turned to ice. My son had turned my daughter into a slave and a scapegoat. How much? I asked. Million? I lost count after the first year. Ellie, we're going to the police. No. Her grip tightened. He has a dead man's switch. A program. If he doesn't enter a code every 72 hours, it sends everything to the FBI. All the evidence, but only the evidence pointing to me. He told me if anything happens to him, I go to federal prison for 30 years. This was why she hadn't screamed, hadn't broken a window, hadn't tried to run. Kevin hadn't just locked her body in this room. He'd locked her future. I need his code. Ellie said, the admin password for the server. With that, I can redirect the dead man's switch. Point it at him instead of me. Show every transaction. Every command he sent me. Every account he controls. But it's not on any of the computers here. He keeps it on a personal drive. A USB. He carries it on his keychain. I looked at my daughter. Skin and bones. Locked in a box for 2 years. And she was still thinking 3 steps ahead. She had Ruth's eyes and Ruth's iron. I can get it. I said, Dad, he's dangerous. He's my son. I know his patterns. I know his habits. And I know his house has 26 electrical outlets that I personally wired. She almost smiled. Almost. I drove home and sat in the kitchen. Planning. I had one advantage Kevin didn't know about. He thought I was a confused old man. Easily manipulated. Too stupid to notice my house being sold out from under me. He thought grief made me blind. He was wrong. Grief made me patient. I called Kevin the next morning. So? I've been thinking. You're right about the retirement community. I want to go see it today. Kevin sounded surprised. Then pleased. That's great. Dad. Really great. Sharon and I can pick you up at noon. Actually, why don't you come alone, father and son? Like old times. Sure. Dad. Of course. He arrived at 12. Parked in the driveway. Walked in through the back door like he always did. Keys in his right hand. I watched him set them on the counter. Force of habit. Coffee? I asked. Sure. While the pot brewed, I talked about Ruth, about the house, about memories. I kept talking because Kevin loved hearing himself agree with things. He sat at the table, relaxed, phone face down, coffee in hand. Bathroom. I said, Old Bleda, give me a minute. I walked to the hallway, waited 3 seconds, then doubled back through the laundry room to the kitchen. Kevin was scrolling his phone. His keys sat on the counter 18 inches from his elbow. 41 years of working in tight spaces with live wires had given me steady hands and quick fingers. I palmed the USB drive off his keychain in under 2 seconds. Replaced the weight with a similar size key fob from my junk drawer. Identical feel. He'd never notice. I walked back from the hallway. Ready when you are. We drove to Glendale. I smiled and nodded at the retirement community. Nice grounds. Friendly staff. I told Kevin I'd think about it. He dropped me home. We hugged in the driveway. Love you. Dad. He said, love you too. Ils sont. The hardest thing I've ever done was hugging him and not breaking his jaw. At 4 o'clock, I went back to South Kinnickinnick. Ellie was waiting. I gave her the USB drive. She plugged it in, and her fingers moved across the keyboard faster than I could follow. For 90 minutes, she worked, pulling apart the system Kevin had built. Every file, every transaction, every email, every forged document. He made me create digital versions of your signatures, she said without looking up. He used them to transfer the house, drain the insurance, open credit lines. Everything looks like you authorized it, or like I stole it. Can you fix it? I can do better. I can show who actually sent every command. The server logs his remote access, his phone's IP address, his GPS coordinates when he logged in. He was sloppy because he thought I'd never get this drive. Atinge patruzet shi chapte pas. She leaned back. Done. The dead man's switch is redirected. If he triggers it now, it sends the real evidence to the FBI. His accounts, his logins, his orders, everything. Now what? Now we need witnesses. Someone Kevin can't intimidate, can't buy, and can't discredit. I thought of Margaret. Margaret who kept Ruth's casserole dishes. Margaret who found the listing. Margaret who never, not once, treated me like a confused old man. I called her. Then I called James the locksmith. Then I called Helen Park, the woman who'd run our neighborhood association for 12 years. I called Darnell Washington, my former apprentice who now ran his own contracting firm. I called Father Anthony from St. Sebastian's, who'd presided over Ruth's funeral. I told each of them the same thing. I need you to come to 1847 South Kinnickinnick Avenue tomorrow morning at 9. I need you to see something, and I need you to be willing to tell the truth about what you see. Every single one said yes. The next morning at 8, I called Kevin. So, I need help with something at that building you bought on Kinnickinnick. Some electrical issues. Can you meet me there at 9? Kevin paused. A long pause. How do you know about that building? I pull permits. Kevin, I see property records. I'm an electrician. Not an idiot. Another pause. It's just storage space. Dad, then you won't mind showing me? 9 o'clock. He agreed because he had no choice. Refusing would confirm something was wrong, and Kevin always believed he was the smartest person in any room. Atopt patruzet shi cinci. 6 people gathered on the sidewalk outside the building. Margaret, James, Helen, Darnell, Father Anthony, and Linda Torres, a reporter from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that Margaret had called without telling me. I didn't object. Kevin pulled up at 9:02. His face went white when he saw the crowd. Then it rearranged into that smooth, concerned expression I now recognized as his mask. Dad, what's going on? Open the door. Kevin, Dad, this is private property. It's your property. Through Bridgewater Holdings, the LLC you formed while your mother was in hospice. Open it. His eyes darted to the faces watching him. He reached for his phone. Your dead man's switch won't help. I said, Ellie redirected it last night. For the first time in my life, I saw fear on my son's face. Real fear. The kind that comes when you realize the person you underestimated has outplayed you. I don't know what you're talking about. Then open the door and prove it. He didn't move. So I entered the code. Linglo Iwu. The lock clicked. The group followed me upstairs in silence. Kevin trailed behind. Bal. Already composing his next lie. I opened the second floor door. The fluorescent lights buzzed on. The computers, the cot, the bucket, the protein bars, the 5-gallon jug, all of it, exactly as I'd found it, and Ellie, standing in the middle of the room. Clean clothes I'd brought her last night. Hair brushed, back straight, thin. Yes. Gaunt? Yes. But standing, Helen Park covered her mouth. Margaret said, "Oh my God." Father Anthony crossed himself. Kevin's mask finally cracked. She wanted to be here. She was hiding from people she owed money to. I was protecting her. Protecting her. I said, in a room with no windows. With a bucket for a toilet. With cameras watching her. Every move. Working 18-hour days, committing crimes that all trace back to her. That's not. Ellie spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. He told me Mom and Dad didn't want me. Showed me fake texts. Fake emails. He said if I left, he'd have me arrested for the fraud he made me commit. Every transaction has my fingerprint. Every account has my name. He built a trap I couldn't escape. She's lying, Kevin said, but his voice had gone thin. Darnell stepped forward. 6'3", 240 pounds. Brother, I've known your daddy 30 years. He pulled me out of a bad situation when I was 19. Gave me a trade. Gave me a life. And you did this to his daughter. Linda Torres was recording. Kevin saw the phone and lunged for it. James stepped between them. Don't. James said simply. I pulled out my phone. I'd already called the police. Not 911. I'd called Detective Maria Santos at the Milwaukee PD's Financial Crimes Unit. I'd called her the night before. After Ellie finished with the server, I'd given her everything. The bank records. The shell company filings. The redirected server logs. The utility records. The property transfers. Detective Santos walked through the door at 914 with 2 officers. Kevin Mitchell, she said. Kevin turned to me. And in that moment, the mask fell away completely. No charm. No concern. No practiced sorrow. Just rage. You ungrateful, old man. Hey, he said. Everything I did because you were too weak to handle it. Mom's bills. The house. All of it. You couldn't manage a checking account. You think Ellie would have survived on her own. She's useless. A painter. A bookstore clerk. I made her worth something. The room went silent. Everyone heard it. The real Kevin, the one who'd been hiding behind that tailored suit and practiced smile. Detective Santos handcuffed him. Dad, Kevin said as they walked him out. Dad? I'm your son. I looked at him. My boy. The kid I taught to ride a bike on Maple Street. The kid who gave Ruth a card every Mother's Day. The kid who became something I don't have a word for. You stopped being my son when you locked your sister in the dark. They put him in the back of the squad car. He didn't say anything else. The car pulled away. And the street was quiet. Ellie collapsed into me. I held her on the sidewalk in the morning cold while 6 people stood around us, and a reporter wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I whispered into her hair. Mom and I never stopped looking. Never stopped wanting you home. He said you forgot about me. Never. Not one single day. Margaret brought blankets from her car. Father Anthony said a quiet prayer. Helen called a doctor she knew. Darnell offered his guest room. These people, my neighbors, my community, they closed around us like a wall. That was 3 months ago. Kevin is in the Milwaukee County Jail awaiting trial. The charges include kidnapping, wire fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, and unlawful imprisonment. His attorney tried for bail, The judge denied it after seeing the server logs. Prosecutors are talking 15 to 25 years. Sharon filed for divorce the same week. She told investigators she didn't know about Ellie. The evidence suggests otherwise. Her case is ongoing. The house is back in my name. Margaret's nephew, a real estate attorney, untangled the trust documents in 2 weeks. Bridgewater Holdings is frozen. Its assets seized. Ruth's insurance money is being traced and recovered. And Ellie. My Ellie is alive. She's living with me now. In her old room, with her old bookshelves and her painting supplies, and the window that looks out on the maple tree I planted the year she was born. She's gained 14 pounds. She sees a therapist twice a week. She still checks the locks at night. Still flinches at loud noises. Still sometimes wakes up screaming, but last Tuesday she painted something. A small canvas. A maple tree in autumn. Golden leaves catching light. She left it on the kitchen table with a note that said, "For Mum." I hung it next to Ruth's photograph. Some nights I sit in Ruth's chair and think about what Kevin said. That I was too weak. Too old. Too confused. And I wonder how many other parents out there are being told the same thing right now. How many sons and daughters are using love as a leash? How many signatures are being collected from people too tired, too trusting, or too grief-stricken to read the fine print? I'm 63 years old. I crawled through a utility closet. I pickpocketed my own son at my kitchen table. I stood on a sidewalk and watched my boy get arrested. There is nothing about that I am proud of, but I would do every bit of it again. If someone you love disappeared, don't stop looking. If someone tells you you're crazy for asking questions, ask louder. If your son hands you papers to sign, read every word. And if something feels wrong in your gut, listen to it, because God gave us instincts for a reason, and mine almost wasn't enough. Ruth, if you can hear me, she's home. Our girl is home. Protect your family. Believe victims. Never sign anything you haven't read. And never, ever let someone tell you you're too old to fight for what's right. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever had someone try to make you feel crazy for knowing the truth? How did you handle it? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Like and subscribe if you believe the truth always finds a way. And remember, it is never too late to bring someone home.